Welcome back to Squawk Box. President Trump saying that Rupert Murdoch and son Lachlan Murdoch, the CEO of Fox, will likely be involved in a deal to keep TikTok running in the U.S. In an interview that aired yesterday on Fox News, President Trump also said that Oracle Executive Chairman Larry Ellison and Dell CEO Michael Dell will likely be involved, too. The White House said that 6 seats on the 7-member board that controls TikTok in the U.S. will be Americans, and the U.S. will control TikTok's algorithm. Joining us right now is Michelle Giuda, former Assistant Secretary of State for Global Affairs in the first Trump administration, now CEO of CROC, the Institute for Tech Diplomacy at Purdue University. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Do we think that this is just what he's talking about now is the board? Is that your understanding of what we're talking about, or we're talking about ownership stakes?
It sounds like the board. And I think big picture is all of the details of this deal are still being worked out, what the ownership stakes look like, who's involved, to what degree they're involved, what the board looks like. But it sounds like that we'll have 6 members of the board that are from U.S. organizations, and then we'll have one that sticks with ByteDance. But I think the bigger picture here is you have the 2 leaders of the free world talking about, or of the world, not free world, of the world talking about a dance app. And why is this thing so important that you have to have the 2 most powerful leaders in the world talking about this thing? And it is really powerful. Like, you think 40 years ago, Reagan and Gorbachev met to talk nuclear weapons. And now you have these 2 leaders meeting to talk about what could be a very big digital weapon. And so I think the president recognizes that, the Congress here recognizes that. So do our friends in Taiwan and Russia and Moldova and Poland, by the way. The election in Romania was nullified because of TikTok. And so you think about the power of this platform, and I think the president is negotiating. He's going to work a deal to bring it in compliance with the law, but big picture is this thing is really powerful. And by the way, the 170 million Americans that are using it have a lot of agency to be eyes wide open about what this platform is feeding them.
What do you think about the ownership stake in terms of how much China will own, and does that matter in terms of national security?
Yeah, I think the thing that really matters is the algorithm, right? They have our data from the 170 million users, okay. The important thing here is the algorithm. This thing is banned in China. TikTok's banned in China. I don't think that gets remembered often enough. It's not allowed in China.
Right, but it's not allowed not in China for national security reasons. It's not allowed in China because of whatever you believe it does to the people there, or to people generally. Right. That's a whole different story.
That is, well, not really. It's all influence and information operations. They're serving up content and creating a narrative in different societies around the world that they would like to propagate.
Michelle, that comes down to it. I think you're right that it all comes down to the algorithm. We hear 2 different things. One is that it's going to be a licensed algorithm, which suggests they feed it to us and we can put it out there. The other is that we control it. And where do you think the truth really falls with this?
Well, we'll see. It would be more strategic for us to be able to control it. China controlling the algorithm is a real danger here, right? Because they're really good at influence operations, and they're serving up things that are not good for free societies. We have to be really smart about that. So if we end up in an area, and this is what the law requires, right, is that there is no ownership of the algorithm by China. And so we have to see how that gets figured out, and it's unclear.
Okay, but let me just take a step back, because you're making a sort of an argument just that TikTok unto itself is bad for the society. Do you think that Facebook is bad for the society?
No, I don't think TikTok into itself. I think the control of the algorithm by the Chinese Communist Party is dangerous for society.
Because you believe, let's just do you believe that they have actually manipulated the algorithm? The government has manipulated the algorithm in nefarious ways to create specific outcomes. And what is the evidence of that?
Yes, FBI reports. And yeah, you look at all of these other countries, like I said, Romania, Taiwan, Moldova. TikTok plays a massive role in the elections of all of these countries. We're here on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Ask any of our friends around the world the power of TikTok.
I'm not suggesting that it doesn't have power. I'm suggesting something very different, which is that the way the algorithm works, unfortunately, but by the way, this is true, I believe, of the Instagram algorithm, which is that certain things that people linger on, that they're interested in, that they engage with, you see a lot more of.
Yep.
And so there is often, unfortunately, the extremes that you end up seeing on most of these services. What I'm asking is something slightly different. And the FBI reports that I've seen, and I agree that there have been some things that the TikTok company has done with reporters and other things, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm asking you something different. I'm asking you whether you have ever seen, because I don't believe it's ever been shown to the public in any way, but if you know something we don't, some actual direct connection between the Chinese government specifically telling people inside TikTok to go change the algorithm to show people certain content. Have you ever seen that? Do you have any evidence of that at all?
Here's the question.
It's not a question.
Do we trust them? Yeah, my answer is, do we trust ByteDance enough to not allow the Chinese Communist Party? The rule in the law in China is that ByteDance must do whatever the Chinese Communist Party says. So the big question, this comes with any Chinese technology. Do we trust it? And this is what was so successful when I was at the State Department. We led a clean network to secure 5G, which ultimately displaced Huawei from the market. Because at the end of the day, no matter how cheap and no matter how good Huawei technology was, 5G technology, our allies did not trust them in Europe, in the Indo-Pacific, in Latin America. And ultimately, they decided to go with trusted vendors, even at a higher cost. So it comes down to trust. And there was no smoking gun. It was the same question for our allies. But ultimately, we know that the CCP influences Chinese companies. It's by law. And so you have to make a strategic decision on whether or not you believe it's safe to use.
Sure, that's a strategic decision. That's not what we've been told. And that's the one distinction I would make in all of this, which is you could decide, I don't want to use this service, or I don't want to use it the way it's currently structured because of the possibility that this could happen prospectively in the future. That's different than what the American public was told, which was that it was being used effectively to spy on people and was being used to manipulate the public today.
But that is what they're doing.
Well, hold on, but
the Congress have said.
That's what Congress has said.
They've targeted reporters.
And I'm saying that besides the reporter piece, I'm saying that this idea of broadly sort of manipulating the algorithm to fundamentally affect the way people think, we have yet to see evidence, unless you have it, that suggests that they actually did that the government instructed people. That's why there's not a clear piece on this. I'm not saying we shouldn't be doing all this, but I'm just saying the rationale for what we're doing has never been, I think, laid out to the public in an honest way.
I think it's been very clearly laid out by the U.S. Congress on both sides of the aisle, where they talk about the threat of TikTok and the fact that the CCP is able to pressure ByteDance to throttle the algorithm. And the ultimate question, and this is why we have to have a lot of ownership and agency as users of technology, you have to decide whether or not you feel like it's safe to use. Do you use TikTok?
I do. Let me ask you a different question, and we've got to go. How do you feel about this administration picking the people who effectively will now own TikTok, the board members and the like? There are some people who would suggest this is very Russian, for lack of a better word, in terms of, you know how we've built oligarchs over the years? We've basically handed them and given them access to, or Russia has basically picked the winners and losers in terms of who gets to own what. And then, of course, the profits that come with that.
Yeah, well, I think we'll see who gets picked and how they get picked, and if there's a board or a committee that does it.
Picked.
Well, it's not finalized yet. We'll see.
Okay, but
right?
you saw the list.
Yeah, but we'll see how they get picked, and ultimately, what we're doing is abiding with a law that Congress on both sides of the aisle has passed.
Do you see it? You don't see anyone who's not friendly with this administration on that list, right?
But it's not finalized yet, so we'll see. We'll see. And this is all happening in a very transparent and open way. And Congress has a role to say, users have a role to say, and so the forces of our democracy will ultimately come into play depending on who gets picked and how.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
It's 7 a.m. On the East Coast. You're watching Squawk Box on CNBC. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin along with Joe Kernan and Becky Quick. Take a look at the futures right now. They are lower in early trading following last week's strong performance. The Dow and S&P 500 both at record highs. Major tech companies rushing to respond after President Trump announced plans last week to impose a now $100,000 fee on H-1B visas. A White House official clarifying over the weekend the one-time fee would only apply to new H-1B applicants, not renewals or current visa holders. Amazon employs the most H-1B holders, while Microsoft, Meta, Apple, and Google are also top recipients. And President Trump and tens of thousands of others gathering in Charlie Kirk's home state of Arizona to say goodbye to the 31-year-old conservative activist and influencer. Cabinet members, as well as other big names, including Elon Musk, joined the president at that service.